y'all, it's Leah. Welcome back to my series on creating our ideas book, where we are making templates of different junk journal elements that we can refer back to when we are making future journals. Today we are going to be making these cute little index card pockets. But before we get started, I have some exciting news. I hit 700 subscribers this morning and I was really excited. I know it's not a huge number for a lot of YouTubers, but for me it's super exciting because I never set out to do this. So to celebrate this little milestone, I want to send out some happy mail to someone who comments below. And since it is kind of getting into summertime, will you comment below with your favorite place? It might not be some place that you go in the summer. It doesn't even have to be a place. It might be someplace in your house. It doesn't have to be like, someplace far away, but it could be a city or a country that you like to go, or a place in your mind. Whatever, that word is open to interpretation. So drop me a comment below and feel free to add anything else in there. Tell me maybe something you want to see in future templates, or just say hello. And then I will pick a winner next Thursday or next Wednesday when I record my video for next Thursday, because I do videos. I post on Thursday and Saturday mornings. Okay, so that is all about that. So let's go ahead and get into this index card pocket. This is something that I saw on a YouTube short, and I will link that below. But they are really simple little pockets just made out of two handy dandy index cards that many of us have laying around. If you don't happen to have index cards, well, the measurements are super simple. 3x5 or 4x6 for these. So you can always use just regular paper, and that would actually save you some steps if you do that. Okay, so they are just little pockets. So it's just two index cards put together, and then we've got some space here, and then depending on how you glue it into your journal, you can have an extra pocket here or an extra pocket here, or you could make it a little tuck spot, however you want to do that. They can also be oriented this way, so if you want to make it a pocket going like that, that works as well. I just happen to do both of mine vertically, but notice I did do my openings on two different sides, so you always have that option as well. Okay, all right, so I'm going to be making the pocket using the 3x5, but I will give you the measurements. They're not much different. I'll give you the measurements at the end for the 4x6 card. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need is one regular index card, and you are going to score it in 3 places. So you're going to score your sides at 3/8 of an inch each, and then you're going to score your bottom at a 1/2 inch. And so so you're just going to go ahead and do that. If you want to just fold it, like, these measurements are just here because that's how I wanted to do it, so that I could share it with you. But when I was watching the lady who posted the short, she just eyeballed it. So it doesn't really matter. And that's the beauty about junk journaling, is nothing really matters. There's no junk journal police. I'm letting you in on a secret. And so nobody is going to come and tell you you did it wrong. So you do you, and if you like to measure and score, go for it. If you want to wing it, go for that too. Okay, so once you have it scored, it's going to look like this. I just inked my edges so that I can show you how I am going to cut this, but you don't have to ink this part. But basically you want to miter your corners, and the way you do that is you fold up so you get that crease, so you can see where those two creases meet, and you're gonna go from like to the left of this line, and you're gonna go basically across through that little cross piece, and then over to the top of this line. So you can kind of see how my scissors are going. So that way when I fold this and I fold this, I have that mitered corner. Okay. And so I'm going to do the same thing on this side. It doesn't matter which direction you start from. Okay, so we've got our corners are mitered like that. Get this out of our way. Okay, so that is your first card. For your second card, you are going to cut it down. So if you notice, all I did, I left my 3 inches the same. I cut 3/4 of an inch off of the one side of it, basically. So it makes it 3 inches by 4 1/4. Okay, and that is to make up for the 3/8 that we folded in on either of those sides. So the 2 3/8 equal 3/4. Okay, and so we take that down. We don't have to cut this part because that's where we want to have our little flap there. And that's why the score lines are different. That's why I scored at 3/8 and then 1/2. In the original video, she cut that off, but I was like, let's just save a step and just score it differently. So that's the reason, if you were wondering on why it was scored at 2 different dimension or 2 different measurements, that's why. Okay, all right, so we're going to take this card and we are going to cover it. Now y'all know that normally I don't glue or I don't decorate these, and I'm not going to fully decorate it, but I do want it in my journal to kind of show that I'm covering the index card. And so I'm going to go ahead and glue that. And sorry, this is a piece of paper that I cut down to these measurements, which are 2 1/2 by 4 1/4. Okay. Now for this, you can use book page, you can use, in this case I'm using, this is just scrapbook paper. You can use music page, you can use whatever you want. And this is where if you make your pockets out of scrapbook paper or some kind of decorated paper, you are skipping this step. So you don't have, you would just score your actual paper. You would start out with a 3 1/2 or a 3 by 5 piece of paper and then do your score lines, and you'll already be to this step. So you won't have to glue something on top. Okay. It is important to know how, if you have a directional paper, that you are doing it in the correct direction. So if you want it to open on a specific side, because this has words on it, this has to be at the bottom and my flap is here. So that means my opening is going to be on the left. So it's going to be like this one. Okay. If you wanted your opening on the right, you'd have to glue it to where your words were, flipped around. Okay. So we've got that. So now for this card, this is going to be our back, because we're basically just going to lay this on top. We want to cover that little strip. And so you just need a piece that's about 1 inch. 1 inch gives you a nice little overhang. So you can see it's hanging over about, a 1/2 inch. So really you could, I wouldn't go any shorter than 3/4, because you don't want to see inside of, you don't want to see the white card inside of it. Again, if you are using decorated paper, you are skipping this step because this part is already decorated. Okay. And so we're just gonna glue that on. And then we are ready to glue this one on. I've had people ask me about glue in the past. So I only use 3 glues. I have tried everything. I've been a scrapbooker and a card maker for a bazillion years. And I've tried every glue that I feel like that's out there. And I have 3 tried and true ones. So I use a Yoo-Hoo glue stick. And I use glue stick when I'm just doing like paper to paper and not something that is going to move. So now when I'm going to glue the pocket on, I'm going to use my Art Glitter Glue. I really like this. Yes, it can be a little bit on the spendier side. And some people like swear by Elmer's, and that's totally cool. I just haven't had good luck with it. And I think being a teacher for so long, I have this love-hate relationship with Elmer's. And so it just hasn't worked for me. But because this is going to be a pocket that opens and closes and gets some wear and tear, I like to use something a little bit stronger than a glue stick. And so art glitter glue is what I use when I am doing still paper to paper, but usually heavier paper to heavier paper. So I don't always use it if I'm just going to use copy paper kind of stuff. And then when I do lace and ribbon and anything dimensional, that is when I use my Beacon 3-in-1, which I have in this Sugar Belle bottle. And that, I find, it is almost the same thing as Fabri-Tac, if you've heard of that one. I really don't know the difference, and I've not been able, like, I've Googled it a bazillion times to try to figure out what the difference is between Fabri-Tac and 3-in-1. They're both made by Beacon, and even on Beacon's site, they don't really tell you the difference. So, I think they're fairly interchangeable, and I have found that 3-in-1 is a little bit cheaper than the Fabri-Tac. So, yeah. And some people use that exclusively on everything. I just don't like, I just don't use it as much. I tend to just use, you know, those two. So those are my 3 glues, just in case you were wondering. Okay. So at that point, then you can go ahead and do what you want to do to your corners. You can round them like I'm going to do. Or you could angle the corners like I did on that one. She did kind of like a harsher round to where it looks more like an envelope. I am not good at freehanding those. I tried. It did not work. So I figured I will just round it with my corner rounder. And that works for me. Okay. And then decorate as you wish. So again, these are my examples. I did some lace. I added like some cheesecloth, did kind of just some layering on those. This is my favorite little girl, just incidentally. I've used her a couple of different, I've had her in different variations, and I just love this. And I cut this specifically so the saying showed, so the happy dreams come true on summer evenings, because I just think like dance recitals usually happen at the beginning of the summer, and so she's in like her little dance outfit, and just all her little happy dreams are coming true while she is on stage. So thought that was just the sweetest little thing. So all right, let's go ahead and get this put into our journal, and while I am doing that, I will show our directions. Okay, so you're starting with 2 index cards. You are going to take the first one and you're going to score it, score the sides at 3/8, and then score the bottom at 1/2 inch. And then you will take, then you'll fold it and cut it corner to corner at the place where it crosses to miter it. Then you're going to take your second one and you're going to cut that down to 3 by 4 1/4. And then you're going to take your first one, you're going to cover that with book page or other paper. And again, if you if you're not using index cards and you're using decorated paper, you can skip the step where it says to cover. You would just go straight into inking it and then getting everything ready. Same thing, you wouldn't have to glue that strip, so you can just skip those sides. Then you're going to glue your first card on top of your second card, leaving that strip showing, and then round or angle your corners, ink it, and then decorate it however you want. If you are going to use 4x6 cards, you're still going to score it at the same dimensions, or you can change it. You can make it wider if you want. And then you're going to cut your second card. It's going to be 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, because we're just taking off that 3/4. And then your strip is going to be 1 inch by 5 1/4. And so everything else is the same. So I'm trying to find a small-ish page for this. There we go. Let's go here with this one. So, and like I do use my art glitter glue for this part because the pages are getting turned. And I just want to make sure, oh, flip that upside down. There we go. And we'll do, what should have done, let's see, that needs to go a little bit down. The one thing with art glitter glue is, as you can see, like as soon as you stick it down, it's pretty darn stuck. So it doesn't have a lot of wiggle room or give. It's not super repositionable. So that is where the 3-in-1 or the Fabri-Tac does actually, it doesn't cure as fast, doesn't dry as fast. So you do have a minute or two to kind of make some adjustments if you need to. Put that in there, and then we'll put our title down here. All right, so that is our index card pocket. If you enjoyed that, let me know. If you want to be entered into our 700 subscriber drawing, then just comment below with your favorite place. All right, thanks for watching, y'all. Bye.